Greetings. Hello, everyone. Today I have another new episodes, and this is the things that how we can create money, and which is very important and relevant for our society. And by this way, we can arrange different kind of intellectual activities, and we can create business. And we have to understand the banking systems as well as the central bank procedures, and this kind of things we will learn. So, money creation. What will I learn in this topic? You will discover that the Federal Reserve and the bank work together to influence the supply of money. What was used for money? Gold was the money in most European nations, who were the founders of our modern day banking. Goldsmiths, people who would keep other people gold safe for a service charge. What was the first currency? People would use the recipients that received from goldsmiths as per money. How did the early goldsmith act as the first bank? Some goldsmiths made loans and received interest. Where do banks get their money to lend? From depositors. Bank get money to lend. What is the fractional reserve banking? A system in which banks keep only a small percentage of their deposit on reserve at the Fed. What are required reserves? The minimum balance that the Fed requires a bank to hold in a vault cash or on deposit with the Fed. What is a required reserve ratio? The percentage of deposit that the Fed required a bank to hold in vault cash or on deposit with the Fed. Required reserve ratio of the Fed. Type of deposit. Required reserve ratio. Checkable deposit or demand deposit. $107 to $55.2 million, 3%. Over $55.2 million, 10%. So here is the bank balance sheet, the required asset liabilities. The Fed required the bank to keep 3% of its checkable deposit in reserve. What are excess reserve? Potential loan balances held in vault cash or on deposit with the Fed in excess of required reserve. What money do banks use to make loans? Bank loan money taken from their excess reserve. What are total reserve? Total reserve equals to required reserve plus excess reserves. What are the three steps in the multidisciplinary of the money? Step 1, accepting a new deposit. We have to accept new deposit. Number 2, making loan. We have to provide loan. And number 3, clearing the loan check. And we have to clear the loan check. This is the major portions of the money. Best national bank balance sheet. Bank accept deposit. Let's say here is a required reserve $10,000. There is a excess reserve $90,000. Total is $100,000. Liabilities. Brad Rich $100,000. Total is $100,000. Note that the federal bank required the bank to keep 10% $10,000 of its checkable deposit of $100,000 in reserve. Excess reserve of $90,000 for loan purchase. National Bank balance sheet in 3 steps. Bank make loans. Asset requires reserve 19,000. Excess reserve 81,000. Loan to continue total 90,000. It's total $190,000. And Bradridge $100,000. Coney, it's a 90,000. It's a total $190,000. So this is different kind of systems we can follow for asset and liabilities, and the Federal required the bank to keep 10% of its checkable deposit of the reserve. Yazoo National Bank balance sheet 5 multipliers expansion of the money supply. The Federal required the bank to keep 10% of its checkable deposit it reserve. When will the money supply increase? When bank lend money to borrowers. What is the money multiplier? The maximum change in the money suppliers due to an initial changes in the excess reserve bank holds, the money multiplier is equal to 1 divided by the required reserve ratio. Thus, equals to 1 divided by RR. How does the money multiplier work? Loans are deposited as checkable deposit in bank, which creates excess reserve and new loans and checkable deposit throughout the banking system. What is the money multiplier equals to? Equals to 1 divided by RRR, required reserve ratio. If the reserve ratio is 1/10, what is the multiplier? 1 divided by 1 multiplied by divided by 10 equals to 10. If reserve ratio is 1/12, what is the multiplier? Uh, it will be 1 divided by 1 multiplied divided by 20 is the 20. So actual money supply change. This is delta M equals to delta ER multiplied by MM. Initial change is excess reserve, money multiplier. Expansion of the money supply. Round, bank, increase in deposit, increase in required reserve, increase in excess reserve. Number one, Best National Bank, $100,000, increase required reserve, $10,000, increase in excess reserve, $90,000. Number two, Yazoo National Bank, $90,000, increase in required reserve, $9,000, increase in excess reserve, $81,000. Number three, Bank A, increase in deposit, $81,000, increase in required reserve, $8,100, increase in excess reserve, $72,900. Number four, Bank B, increase in deposit, $72,900, increase in required reserve, $7,290, increase in excess reserve, $65,610. So this is the way that we can identify Bank A, Bank B, Bank C, Bank D, and Bank E, like how they can increase the deposit as well as increase in required reserve. On the other hand, increase in excess reserve. So in the banking system, using the data from Exhibit 2, compute the change in the money supplies equals to delta M equals to delta ER multiplied by equals to $900,000 equals to 90,000 multiplied by 10. 900,000 and equals to 90,000 multiplied by 10. What can cause money multiplier to be smaller than computed? Cash leakage occur when all of a loan is not deposited in another bank and, for example, put in a home safe. When a financial crisis causes bank not to use all their excess reserve for loan. What is monetary policy? The Fed uses of policy tools to change the money supply. What would the Fed do when we have a recession? Increase the money supply. What would the Fed do when we have inflations? It decrease the money supply. How does the Fed affect a change in the money supply? It will use its monetary tools to influence bank. How does the Fed influence bank lending? Open market operations, change in the discount rate, and change in the required reserve ratio. So what are the open market operation? The buying and selling of government securities. What the Fed do if we have a recession? Buy US government securities by injections excess reserve into the banking system when the Fed pay for the securities for the money supply increase. What the Fed do if we have inflation? Sell US government securities by withdrawing excess reserve from the banking system. When the Fed receive payment for the securities, the money supply decrease. Exhibit 3, open market operations. Federal sell government securities and the bank lose reserve. Buys government securities and the bank gain reserve. Bank decrease loans and destroy money. Bank increase loan and creates money. What is the discount rate? The interest rate that Fed charges of loan to bank. What would the Fed do during a recession? Decrease discount rate. So our request is that if you go for the decreased discount rate, which encourage banks to borrow their required reserve from the federal bank. Therefore, bank increase loan and create money supply increase. What the Fed do if the economy exercise inflation? Increase discount rate, which discourage bank from borrow their required reserve from the Fed. Therefore, bank decrease loans and create no money supply decreases. What is the federal fund market? A private market in which banks lend reserve to each other for less than 24 hours. The federal funds rate is a preliminary barometer of federal policy reported in the media. What is the federal fund rate? The interest rate bank charges for overnight loan of reserve to the other bank. What is the federation do during a recession? Decrease the federal fund rate. What would the federal do if the economy experience inflation? Increase the federal fund rate. What is another monetary policy tool? The required reserve ratio. Recall that the fund determines how much a financial institution must keep in reserve as a percentage of its total asset. What would the Federal do if the economy experiences a recession? Decrease the required reserve ratio. What would the Federation do if we have inflation? Increase the required reserve ratio. So in that particular point, four effective of monetary policy tools on the money supply. Monetary policy expansionary. Monetary policy action, open market operation purchase. Mechanism, reserve increase and change in the money supply increase. Contractionary, open market operations sales, then reserve decrease and decrease the change in the monetary supply. Expansionary, if we find out that the money is expansionary in that particular time, discount rate decreases, borrowing reserve become cheaper and increase. Contractionary, discount rate increase, borrowing reserve become costlier and change the monetary supply is decrease. Expansionary, required reserve ratio decrease, money multiplier increase, and the change in the money supplies increase. And contractionary, required reserve ratio increase, money multiplier decrease, and the change in the monetary supply also decrease. So thank you. Basically, these are the things that we have to understand, that how actually monetary issues work inside the banking systems. So inside the banking system, there is a federal bank. So federal bank basically managing the all of the necessary policy and strategy for the economy. At present situation, many of the country, they can face lot of challenges, especially in the when we cannot produce enough money. So even if we have inflation in the economy, in that situation we have to be very much strategic to handle these inflations and this kind of things. Maybe you can buy a dollar from the markets, as well as you can take necessary initiative. Thank you, Mr. Shohel Rana, for your excellent comment, and thank you for your support for School of Talent Economy. And you have a question about the market research for entrepreneurs. This today's sessions, actually we already discussed about the, let's say, markets, how actually the monetary issues, the money handles by the federal bank, as well as, like, if you want to be a market researcher, most important thing is that you have to understand what's the problem of the market. In the COVID situation, economy has to face lot of challenges. So when you have lot of challenges in the COVID situations, so in that situations, as many people losing jobs, government has to expend lot of money, corporate cannot make enough money, and money inflations and this kind of things happens. In that situations, entrepreneurs has opportunity, they can do market research. Let's say any entrepreneur for software industry, so they have to do some research on the software industry. that what's going on, what's the market positions, and this way they can survive. So market research basically depend on the problem. Let's say in the today's problems, today we're going to discuss about the banking system. So in the banking system, if you find there is a system error, there is inflations, there is a interest rate which is very high, we have to control the interest rate. There is a money which is available in the bank, but there is a no borrower. Maybe it's a problem. So in that situation, we have to create a lot of check and balance, and by this way, we have to survive in the economy. And thank you for Mr. Araf Meras for your good questions. Uh, thank you for your good support and good comments, Hosni Arafeddos. So I want to give you some of the special things, especially when you focus on the market, when you focus on the economic and economical aspects. This is very critical moment for all of the entrepreneurs. This is very critical moment, especially for small entrepreneurs, because they survive based on the cash flow. So when you do not have enough cash flow, that time you have to face a lot of challenge. When you do not have enough cash flow, that time you have to go with a different fundamental way, and which may be challenging for you. So in that situations, I request that let's focus on cash flow. I again request you that let's focus on cash flow. Why? Because if you focused on the cash flow, it will help. It will help to survive. It will help your operation. Maybe you can go for the like cut down your employees, cut down your organizations expenses, and many more things. But most important thing is that money flow. The more you can focus on the money flow, the more you can find out a result, even if it's small result. Then you can survive in a professional way. Then you can get a result in a professional way. This is ultimately the objective of School of Talent Economy. We have to understand the beauty of money transferring. So every point, every equation, and every aspect, we have to be very strategic for money transferring. Any approach should we take to increase cash flow? Basically, most important thing is that now, let's say 1 year before or 2 year before, the company, they do have more focus on the bigger aspect. Maybe their target is that I want to reach 1 million peoples to sell my softwares or sell my knowledge. Now you have to focus on the micro initiative, micro level, small level. Like in the small level, what's the demand you have? Let's say your area, your village, your town, whatever it is, what the demand it has. So based on that, when you give them proper service, as well as proper cooperations, that time it can survive, and that time it can survive the economy and other things. So that is the point. Do not go for the too much of bigger aspects. Do not go for the too much of big things. Do not go for the too much of big aspects and big macro initiative. More focus on the micro initiative, and do a lot of collaborations. And by this way, you can increase your cash flow from the organizations. And I'm sure in that situations, the organization, those who are smart, they are making a lot of money. And the organizations, those who are following the traditional methods, they have a lot of challenges. So this is ultimately the way that how you can survive for this economy. So thank you, Mohammad Shohel Rana, for your good questions. And especially I want to give thanks the people. Abiaz Mustain, your question is that thank you for your good question. Is it possible to increase cash flow through the new investments? Look, it's a multi-million dollar questions. Investments has lot of things. Investment need lot of question answers, and you have to be focused on that. Investment give you returns. Let's say maybe the healthcare system now it getting expanding its business, so you can invest on that. Technology always playing a very good role, so people can invest on technology. But things is that try to understand, when you do business, First focus on your local market, even your own area, in a micro level, focus on that. So even though maybe you have the people, they do not know what they have to do. So if they want to invest on your business, you can request them, okay, I have this kind of solutions. If you invest on my business, then it will be helpful. But investing in a business does not mean it will create cash flow if you are not going for a positive business. And second important thing is that I request all of the investors, those who invest in a business, you should focus on the impact of the business. If the business has the real impact of the society, then definitely they're gonna invest in the business. So thank you, Abiaz Mustain. This is very important questions, and thank you for your good questions, and hopefully you get the answer. So ultimately, the in macro initiative, the central bank system, even the example in the developing nations, they can do more focus on their uh, banking system. Bank can purchase more dollars and more things. On the other hand, we can focus on our like the micro initiative and the macro initiative. Macro organizations, maybe they have bank loans, they have a lot of challenges, so we can help this kind of organizations to create real ecosystems. If you have a proper ecosystem and something, then maybe you can create your new market. Will the traditional methods of trader be effective in the futures? Look, what is actually traditions? Let's say, example, in the South Asian market, what I discuss in few TV channels, they have a traditions. Like in South Asia, especially India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, even China, they invest, every people, they invest money in gold, right? They buy golds. So even the crisis period, that crime, they buy more gold, because gold, they feel it's a security for their family. So it's a traditional methods. If you go to the American economy, the stock market, blockchain, cryptocurrency, different kind of trading methods, and many more things. That time, like example, they say, okay, it's a traditional business, we cannot focus on that. But issue is that it's a very good approach. Even in the COVID period, you can see that the gold price go up. But when I analyze gold price will up, many of the first world scholar, they say, how it possible? It do not have any values. But the issue is that it's a culture of the South Asia. It's a culture of China. It's a culture of India, that everybody thinks that gold is a very effective thing. So that is the fact I always request. For economical aspects, always do not run about the other country's perspective. Try to understand your local economy. Your local economy, you never know, maybe your agro-based business, maybe it's a traditional but it's helpful. Your local business, maybe your traditional dress, maybe it's not important for the global community, but it's important for your local community. Maybe example, some of the traditional medicine, it's helpful for your community. Let's focus on this business. Even example, always like, yes, technology, you can integrate technology for the traditional business. You can integrate the technology with your different type of methods and everything. So this is important. Traditionals and not traditional, it depends. Let's say example, Bangladesh, once upon a time, they transferred their money through bank. Now they transferred their money through mobile phone. Okay, this is the modernized things, but issue is that their business and everything moving forward. So this is important. So I want to request that all of the businessmen first learn your local economy. First try to understand your local concept. And if you can fulfill even your thousand of the family, and you can create the cash flow for your business, this is very important. Even if you see that example, traditional businessmen, they do not go for too much of loan, too much of things, they do more focus on their local market. This is the ultimately the way, this is ultimately the objective, this is the ultimately the effective way of business. First focus on your local market, and then when you understand your local market, you can understand your business properly. uh, Hosnara Firdaus, thank you for your question. How effective will be the small initiative to survive in the market after COVID? Always believe in the economical concept, small is beautiful. Why? Example, if we want to start even a big companies, let's focus on something small. Why? Because when you start something small initiative, it will help to create your real team. Maybe you have some sort of system error, you can solve your system error. Maybe you have some sort of effective things you do not want to miss. So in that situations, I want to say COVID actually very good time for starting business, and those who can take this opportunity, and those who can understand local problem. What is the local problem? Maybe American problem is elections. Maybe local problem is example in South Asia creating job opportunity. So when you understand the local problem, start with a small initiative. If you have a professional error or many more things, you can solve these things, and then you can survive. It's possible. All of the big company, how they start, let's say the biggest company, Amazon start with a small initiative from their garage. Apple, small initiative. Alibaba, small initiative. Even example, every country, every organization, they start with a small, then step by step they grow. So this is my request to everyone: start with some small initiative and create some cash flow. So when you can create some cash flow for your company, then your confidence will go up, then you can make it more structured, more effective, and you can move forward. Thank you, Hosna Firdaus, for your good question. So in that situation, many important thing is that in the COVID periods, focus on the cash flow. That's why I come up with these questions and come up with this session that how monetary issues and these things work, and especially those who running as a policymaker for the macro initiative and different kind of banking policy and the central banks and this thing. I request to everyone, beside this big economy like big corporations and other things, you have to give more support to the small entrepreneurs, because 90% of the companies around you and your country and my around me actually small initiative. So we have to help this small organization. Maybe they can create 10 business opportunity, maybe they can create 20 business opportunity, maybe they can create 10 employment or 5 employment. This is also important for economy. So Abbas Mustain, your question is that what role will new immigrant play in boosting the economy in developed countries? Look, actually, immigrant, non-immigrant, this is different issues. But one point I understand that, for example, if you want to see the successful entrepreneur, Elon Musk. Elon Musk is immigrant for USA, but he contribute a lot for the economy, US economy. So example, every people, those who are immigrant are not Elon Musk. Sometimes this immigrant also burden for the other country. So it depends that how the peoples, how these people, they grow themselves, they develop their skills, their knowledge, their perception, and their visions. If people grow themselves, their vision and everything, that time they can contribute for any country. They can contribute for own country, they can contribute for the other country. Even though example in I think example in Bangladesh, those who stay abroad, they're going back to Bangladesh and they play a very good role. Example, how we see Bikash grow with the highly educated group of people. Example, even many corporations inside Bangladesh is grow those who going back to Bangladesh. So issue is that how people grow themselves and how they develop their perception. If they have a proper perception, they can contribute for their economy. Immigrant or non-immigrant, this is different issue. Definitely we have to follow every country's policy, law, rules and regulations. but definitely we have to understand the business flow first. Thank you, Mr. Araf Mehraz, Abyaz Mustain, Hosne Araf Feddos, Mohammad Shohel Rana, especially Mohammad Shohel Rana, for your continuous support. And thank you for all of your good questions. But I request to all of the small medium enterprise, small organizations, and everyone, I request everyone that just focus on the focused on this small initiative. If you can focus on this small initiative, then you can be very much successful for your economy. And this is the right time for more entrepreneurship. This is the right time for the more handling the business strategy and monetary issues. If you can handle these things effectively, then you can be more successful. Thank you, audience, for your nice questions. If you have any kind of questions, you can communicate with me directly, so I can give you the answers, and by this way we can solve many problems together. Thank you for your time and everything.